So I think what John has elucidated there is something that is escaping many, many analysts, journalists, commentators, political freakers, all that sort of stuff. And I think it's because the language is wrong. So the language that we have used is, and again, I come back to it, as I said at the very top, that the center position is the broad median aggregate of where most people are. But if you find on these cultural issues that the political class is far away from the broad average dude, what it means is the political parties are radical.
Yeah.
And if those political parties are absolutely centrist in their economics, their tax, their spend, but are very, very radical on their social agenda, then they are the radicals. Whereas the far right, that we're calling far right, that seem to be much, much closer to the average person on issues of integration, of immigration, of crime, not only are they not radical, they're actually in the center.
Yeah.
Now that then is the eureka moment that explains why so many people in the center are voting for reform in the UK, President Trump in the United States, Meloni, Le Pen, etc. It's because those politicians that the mainstream are calling radical, the actual broad swathe of the population agree with.
Yeah.
And the people who agree with the radical position are only the extreme, educated, sociologically educated, and people who have an agenda that they want to spread.
But see, I actually thought that was a really interesting point when he spoke about the gap in education that most of all of the politicians, the UK, I know he's talking a lot about the UK, but it goes the same for here in France and Germany and Denmark.
And America.
And America, that the politicians are well educated. And there is this element as well that, you know, in trying to, I know you always go on about the woke mind virus.
I don't always go on about the woke mind virus. I just say it to piss you off because John rarely gets angry. He's a very, very placid fella. He's even more placid that I've brought him some jellies back from New York. You should see the head in them. Anyway.
They're good jellies.
They are. But this is what gets them, because I just say you're suffering from the woke mind virus.
But it is
the Trump derangement syndrome.
but this idea, I'm not using the word woke, but the idea of kind of being liberal and trying to...
Or progressive, or whatever you want to use. Yeah.
But the politicians, certainly in this country, trying to be all things to all men. And as JFK says, you know, you can't please all the people all the time. But by doing that, they end up doing nothing.
Well, you see,
and they don't take those, you know, hard decisions that they talk about.
Well, it's interesting. It's not that they think they're pleasing everybody, but they're actually leaving the bloke and the blokette, man and woman, in the pub behind. And they're increasingly alienating themselves from the people, the normal people, and they are allowing themselves being driven by what is quite a rather radical idea on the issue of immigration and law and order, as we spoke about. So I think what we have, John, is a mangling of the language. And in a way, it's quite unusual because normally language leads. It doesn't actually lag. Language and slang tend to lead because language is so unbelievably malleable and changeable and all that. Whereas I think right now what we have is the language is behind. And the idea, as you say, that certainly in our generation, the political class is more traditionally educated than the average voter. Makes sense because in the traditional education, if you go through third level, you're much more likely to be influenced by liberal ideas, much more likely to be influenced by ideas that would be regarded as democratic. Maybe inoffensive is another word, that you don't want to offend people because you think that offending people is an actual primitive urge and a much more civilized and sophisticated urge is not to offend people. But what you end up with is policies that the average person doesn't not only agree with, but doesn't even recognize.
Yeah.
And this, I think, explains a lot of what's happening in society.
But where does the correction come? There's always a correction at some stage.
Yeah.
Where does that come?
Trump is the correction. Trump is the evidence.
It's not a great correction.
No, but Trump or whatever, but it's not a great correction. But if you regarded Donald Trump as evidence, something is badly wrong within the consensus political establishment. Something is badly wrong within the elite. What you have, and I keep coming back to it, is the fascinating thing is it's who's right and who's wrong here. And I don't mean right and wrong morally, but who's on the right wave and who's in the wrong wave. All the so-called radical right have been voted in democratically by normal people. So Farage, or at least in the polls, Trump, Le Pen, all the votes these guys are getting, the AfD, Wilders, Meloni, Orban. You can go as far as, Vucic in Serbia. You can go wherever you'd like. The new president of Poland, whose name escapes me. They've all been voted in by normal people going about their normal business, voting in a normal, functioning, transparent democracy. And at every stage, what the normal people are saying is we reject the radicalism of the mainstream parties. And the mainstream parties react to that by pointing the finger at the people who voted for the right-wing people and saying, you are radical, you are wrong, you are some way uncivilized, you're unsophisticated, and frankly, you are the past.
But
in fact, they're the future.
Apart from Denmark.
So what did the Danes do? And this, we'll end here. This is the fascinating thing. So the Danish Social Democrats decided, you know what? We're going to position ourselves with the people. Not with the university professors.
They sold the thunder of the right.
Because they saw, hold on a second, if we don't do this, if we stay with the university professors, okay, says the university professor. If we stay with the university professor and the sociology department and the minorities, etc., we're going to lose. And also we're turning our back on our real constituency, which are lower income, working class Danes. So what do they want? And what the lower income working class Danes want is they want law and order on the streets. They want the streets to be safe for themselves and their kids. They want their kids to be able to afford houses and not have to compete with new immigrants coming in. They want the new immigrants who come in to work, but not to swanny around when a Danish cartoonist burns a picture of Allah. They insist that Danish cartoonist is Danish and he can live in Denmark because Denmark is a free society and it's not an Islamic society or whatever it happens to be. And the Social Democrats said, we're with them. We're with we're with the average Knut. And,
but they're just representing the people as politicians should be. That's their role.
And by and large, most people are decent, are democratic, are in the middle. They don't mind immigrants at all. In fact, they like their immigrants, they like the change, but they want people to assimilate properly. They don't want people to say, well, I'm in this country now, but I'm going to take my culture with me and be rejectionist of the local culture. So all these things are going on, but I think we can conclude, which is fascinating, and I think it opens up a whole new area of discussion, that what was radical, or what is perceived as radical, is actually mainstream. And what is politically marketing itself as mainstream is actually radical. And that, I think, is a
radical thought.
It's a radical thought. So take it with you, and we'll see you Tuesday. But actually, John, before we go on Tuesday, we have a fascinating discussion with Edge of Utah.